What's up gamers, Jem here, and today there was a Stadia keynote. I will be basically summarizing and sharing my opinion on the parts that I thought was interesting. A lot of the things talked about in the Stadia keynote attracts mostly indie developers, and there was one big thing that attracts big game companies. But first, let's talk about the big change with Stadia Pro. Stadia Pro will share 70% of its revenue with the publishers of the games that are on Stadia Pro. It is shared based on how many days per user have been playing your Stadia Pro game. This will attract a lot of indie developers, especially early on, to sign up for the game to be on Stadia Pro. This means Stadia Pro has changed in value. With the new change, it means that the more people that subscribe to Stadia Pro, the more and better quality Stadia Pro games we will have. Seriously, the fate and quality of Stadia Pro is literally in our hands now. Imagine if we had millions of Stadia Pro subscribers. We would end up with a lot more monthly games and even end up with more big games coming to Stadia Pro because they want the high monthly revenue share. The next thing Stadia keynote mentioned was that Stadia games launching after 1st of October until the end of 2023 will have a 15% cut for the first $3 million they make. Again, this is a very attractive deal to indie developers. They get to keep 85% of the game sales, and perhaps a few indie developers are feeling generous and they might even make the Stadia versions a bit more cheaper than the other platforms. And finally, the big thing that will attract big game companies is that there is a Stadia porting toolkit that will allow developers to convert their DirectX 9 to 11 Windows games into Stadia without using Vulkan. This doesn't mean that you just magically click a button and you converted a Windows PC game to Stadia. What this does mean is that you don't have to convert your game into Vulkan and then port it to Stadia. The Stadia porting toolkit will manage that part for you with a bit of developer effort. The reason why this attracts big game companies is because most of them have their own custom game engine, which isn't the Unity or Unreal game engine. I can't stress enough on how much of a big deal this is for custom game engines to support Stadia. Now, there were much more things talked in the Stadia keynote, such as how much the Stadia team has worked very hard over the year to make sure making games on Stadia is simplified as much as possible based on the feedback they've received from developers. But this video is about the things that I found most interesting. Earlier this year, SG&E was shut down, and personally I didn't take that very well because the reason why I signed up to Stadia was gone, and today I'm still not over it. But one thing that is clear today is that Google is taking a big hit for Stadia. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. A promise. Well, a new promise, I should say. A new promise that Google is invested into Stadia and they are willing to take the financial hit to make sure Stadia succeeds, and that's what I wanted to hear after the SG&E shutdown, and that's what we got today. Thank you for watching my video. This is Jem, and I'll see you on the next one.